Welcome to Twitch Tales, episode 14. Where we left off last time, for a bit of a recap for you, is that we are playing Apis Hive. We are a Hill Dwarf Ranger. We're an Outlander. We are non-binary. We have a giant bee companion. Here's a few things about them anyway. Apis has been traveling for 10 days now, 10 in-game days since we started. We started in a town called Shadridge, or just outside of a town called Shadridge. We did a bit of milling around there, and then we discovered a murder. And then we investigated the murder and discovered some goblins were responsible in a nearby goblin camp within the nearby forest. The Fair Woods. While dealing with the goblins, we came across some elves in an elven forest town, and we warned them about the goblins and discovered that they had actually been victim to the goblins as well. We helped them recover their town from the attacks of the goblins, and we went to a nearby sister town of theirs, and where we discovered again that the goblins had raided them before we got there. So between those two towns, we've helped them to recover. We helped them to harvest a bunch of flowers that only bloom once a month on the full moon. We killed a displacer beast that had been terrorizing them for a number of years, off and on. And we skinned the displacer beast and took the hide to a tanner, who, and here's some retcon coming up, guys, who told us at the time that it would take him 2 days to tan the hide. And then I looked up how long hide tanning takes, and it usually takes many, many weeks. And so I thought, I could say that he's just using like magical abilities and magical tanning techniques, but he's from a very small town in a forest, and they don't have access to a lot of magic. So I'm going to retcon it and say that instead of saying the hide would be ready in 2 days, he said 2 weeks. It will be clean in 2 days. He's going to spend the first 2 days cleaning it and scrubbing all of the excess flesh off of it and all of that sort of stuff, and doing the preliminary processes needed for tanning, because I started looking up the tanning process today. And there's a process of going through where normally you take the hair off of it, but specifically because we want to turn this into we need to turn the displacer beast into a displacer cloak, and we want to keep the hair for the abilities that come with it. He has to put in a bit of extra effort. So basically, if we did want to go back and collect the hide in 2 days, it wouldn't be ready to turn into a cloak yet, but it would be clean and therefore less likely to putrefy on the journey. But if we don't want it for any reason, we can just leave it with them for 2 weeks. I've got a note of what day that will be specifically, so we can go back in 2 weeks and get our tanned hide, which we can then start to get enchanted and turn into an actual displacer cloak with its abilities and everything. We left off on day 10 of the journey, day 10 of the adventure so far, which is actually the 20th of Eolabris. And I'll read you the sort of review of the last day since this morning, effectively. We headed to Helwarin, the original elven town that we went to, which was about a 2-hour walk from where we were. Sathan, the spiritual elder, greeted us and took us to Eldar, the leatherworker. Eldar inspected the hide and confirmed that he can tan it, and it'll take 2 weeks. Sathan directed Apis to Talila's house / apothecary, where we discovered that the garment that we were carrying around with us is a cloak of many fashions. We now are wearing a cloak that has a magical ability to turn itself into any other cloak. It looks like it can mimic the appearance of any other cloak or overcoat kind of thing. It has limitations, of course, and doesn't take on any other magical powers, even if it mimics a magical cloak. She also identified a mystery key for us, which is an item that has a 1 in 20 chance of unlocking anything that it's put into. So if you come across a door that you really need to unlock and you don't want to take the time to pick it or smash it, you can first try your mystery key on it, and there's a 1 in 20 chance that it succeeds. And then if it succeeds, it disappears into dust or whatever. So it only works once. Well, yeah, it only works once. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work on that lock ever. She taught us a new spell, Protection from Evil and Good. And we bought the necessary material components for that spell from her. The powdered silver and iron that you can see down in that corner of the inventory there. Nine uses of powdered metal. We went to a hunter, and we traded in our hunting trap for some more non-magical rope and some caltrops, which you can see down there. And we also bought a net. Who's a net? We headed a 2-hour walk-ish to Mwynglofau, which is the the drow mining elven town. And there we met a drow guard called Trell and a drow Bridden, who is a half drow, half human, by the name of Anduria Blecken. We heard that the Orachellians, which is the final of the 4 sister towns, the Orachellians have recently requested that the Mwynglofau weapon creators make more, like up their production of weapons, because their troubles are not yet over, and they'll be sending warriors to each of the sister villages to train up a militia. At the weaponsmith, we traded our mace and short sword for a long sword, which you can see down below me, a long sword and a hunting knife. The hunting knife was given to us as a sort of preliminary gift when we gave the promise to bring Anduria some goblin ears in exchange. Anduria has a particular hatred of goblins. After that, we returned to the goblin camp, about an hour and a half away from Mwynglofau, so we've done a lot of walking today, probably about 5-6 hours of walking. And we returned to the goblin camp, where we discovered that it has been cleared out, any salvageable items have been retrieved, and any destroyed items are littering the clearing, including the bodies of the goblins. And that's where we'll pick up right now. It is late afternoon into the evening of the 20th of Yolabris, and we are standing in a destroyed goblin camp, partially destroyed by our doing, partially by the ogre's doing, and partially by an unknown entity. We have let's see, how many dead goblins would there be? We snapped a neck, we shot an arrow through that guy, the bees killed that one, the wolves tore that guy apart, we tied that guy to the tree, we don't know if he's dead or not. We shot, I don't think we shot any more with arrows. We'll say there's 7 dead goblins around, and potentially one tied to a tree as well. So 7 or 8 if the one tied to the tree is still here and dead. Of those 8, the boss was not he was not left in a position where you can access his ears because he was partially eaten by the wolves, who literally just tore him apart, and didn't leave anything that would resemble an ear. So if you wanted to now start going around collecting goblin ears, you can find 6 of them, 6 of the right ears, and then you can go down to see if the other one was still tied to the tree. But that sounds like a decision to be made by you guys. So I will open up my Nightbot. Yes, Katrina. So you have been gifted a what's that called again? Which is a 10,000 for 10,000 copper pieces. When you're watching, you can choose to name a person, a place, a thing, an item, whatever you want. Give me like a paragraph, no more than a paragraph of detail about it, and then I can stick it in the world somewhere. I missed that. Why are we thinking of collecting goblin ears? So there were two reasons. One of them is that we met somebody who despises goblins, and as a promise to as a way of talking them into giving us a hunting knife for free, because we couldn't afford to buy it, we promised that we would bring them some goblin ears of the dead goblins that we'd already killed, as proof that we have slayed some goblins. And she would be like, sweet, a dead goblin's a good goblin. Another reason for it is that we heard before leaving Shadridge, about 7 days ago, we heard that there was potentially going to be a bounty on goblins put up. And so if we ever go back to Shadridge, having some goblin ears may earn us a bit of money. Yeah, just any. Anduria just needed to know that we'd killed some goblins, and would take the Schadenfreude as payment for the hunting knife. All right, so if you want to type in !camp into the chat, CAMP, as in we are standing in a goblin camp. Yes, collecting rat tails or pelts is a time-honored way of proving your work for bounties, and that's basically what they're doing, but with goblin ears. So what are some of the things that we could do right now? We're in a goblin camp. It's early evening-ish, so we have a few more hours of it's spring, it's early spring, so it's probably getting dark about now, even though we've got a few more hours of the day. We don't have a few more hours of the light. It's early springtime. So we have maybe an hour more of light, and then we have to probably set up camp somewhere, or we're not completely done for the day, so we could find a place to sleep, or we could walk for another couple of hours if we wanted to go towards a particular direction. A few of the things that have been talked about in the Discord Twitch Tales chat as potential avenues to explore still, a sort of open-ended, open-ended threads, would be go back to Shadridge for the purposes of A, collecting a bounty there, B, telling the people there that you've dealt with the goblins, C, telling the people of Shadridge that there's elves living nearby, just in case anything that starts up any sort of avenue for trade. Just basically reporting back. We could also go to the place where we know there is a portal to the Feywild and head into the Feywild. We've been asked by a Fey creature to talk to the merry man that we met one time. So we might want to do that at some point. There was also the prospect of looking for clues in the camp here to see if there are clues left behind as to who salvaged the salvageable elements of this camp, whether there's more goblins out there or some other creature that was working with the goblins. We could... what else was there? We could hang around in one of the elven towns, I guess, and work, earn some money, or help them in some way. I don't know. The world is your oyster in that sense. You can do whatever you really want to do. We haven't searched for a trail yet. No, we haven't searched for a trail, and we haven't taken any ears. We ended off the last session at the point of arriving in the goblin camp to see that it had been completely taken down. Send Mel to scout the area where we tied up Krak, where we keep watch and gather the ears here. Yeah. Also, we stayed in a traveller's hut about an hour from here after we took the camp out. Could go back there to rest. Yeah, absolutely. There's a travelling hut about an hour out of here. Yeah, he was a merry man. He was a sort of a gentleman with a merry disposition. I need to look at the Elven Library for a magic book called Ducky McDuckface, Ruler of the World, for the children playing with Melby. Yeah. All right, let's have a little look. 3, 2, 1. The Game Mummy. Welcome to the chat, The Game Mummy. If you are still in the chat, can you let us know? There it is, OMG. Now, The Game Mummy, you get to decide, what should we do? What do you think you would do in this situation? If you need any more description as to what exactly the situation is, then let me know. There's no wrong answers per se, so don't worry. How late is it approximately? So it is approximately equivalent to about 5 or 6 p.m. In early spring. So it is getting dark in about an hour's time. We're not feeling tired yet. We'll probably be able to stay up for another like 3-4 hours before we have to start sleeping, start our long rest. We've got about 3 or 4 hours more of the day, but we've only got about an hour more of the light. Can we make camp and then hunt for food? We can do that, yeah. If you see below me over here in the inventory, all of the stuff below me is the things that we have in our bag. So you'll see down there is a thing called rations. So we actually have some dried food on us if we wanted. If we want to not have to hunt, we can just eat the food that we've got. But we are also a very adept hunter, so we can either forage or hunt for food, and we'll be able to get it easy enough. Did I miss the episode where we got the net instead of the mean trap? Yes, you must have, PsyQ. That was at the end of last episode, end of episode 13. We went to a hunter and we said, hey, this hunting trap doesn't really do it for us anymore because we hate to injure animals for no reason. So can we trade you out? And we got a net and some caltrops and a 50-foot rope as well in return for the hunting trap. Do we want to collect any ears? We do want to collect ears at some point, but we might want to set up camp and get something to eat first. Nice roast rabbit would be really nice. Awesome. All right. So Game Mummy says we are going to... so Apis' stomach starts to growl. They decide, yep, we want to probably get some goblin ears at some point, but that's not necessarily... It's not like these goblins are going anywhere. They were killed a couple of days ago and they're still here. So I will roll a survival check for Apis. First roll of the session. You see down here, guys, down on that side of the screen, you can see a box called skills, where it says animal handling, athletics, perception, stealth, and survival. Those are the skills that Apis is good at, particularly good at, proficient at, some might say. So I'm going to roll a skill check for survival, which is the skill that I use for determining how well you can set up a camp in this sort of a situation out in the wilderness. So we roll a d20, which gives us an 11, and then we add 4 to it because 2 from our wisdom and 2 from being particularly good at the skill. And because we're in a forest situation, and forest is our favourite terrain, we get to add another 1 to that. So instead of a 15, we get a 16. 16 survival check means that we can set up a camp very nicely, very easily. There are some destroyed tents that weren't taken because they weren't considered worth salvaging by whatever came through here and took the rest of the salvageables. And so we use some of that discarded canvas and some sticks, and very quickly it takes us less than half an hour and we've put together a nice little tent that's going to shield us from any elements over the night. And we've also, in that time, set up a little bit of a stone fire pit to contain a campfire. So we go out, we start to look for firewood. Takes us maybe we want to hunt before we lose the light, so we want to hunt for food before the firewood actually. So now I'm going to make another survival check. Actually, no, I'm going to make it'll be a survival check. I'm going to make another survival check, and we're going to see if we can find some rabbits. Before I roll it, would I give you advantage on this? No reason for advantage, but we will get the bonus of being in the forest. Hey, look at that. So we got a 16 on the dice, plus 4, plus another 1 for being in a forest, so we get a 21 total. It only takes us about 20 minutes of hunting before we find the rabbit hole that we're looking for, and we think, perfect, this is definitely a rabbit hole. We investigate it, we put our ear to it and hear some sounds of scurrying down there, and we realise, yep, here we go. Yes, sorry, forest bonus is a +2, yes, not a +1. So forest bonus takes it to a 22, not a 21. Doesn't change the outcome. Shh, be very quiet. We're hunting rabbits. We find this rabbit hole. We set up a snare trap with our rope and twigs and rocks and things like that. We're very adept at putting up this sort of hunting trap, and then we bait it with a little bit of the rations, and we only wait for like 10 minutes as we walk around finding firewood in the nearby area. And right as we're about to head back towards the camp, we hear it twang as this rabbits come out to find the snare, to find the interesting food smell that's out right outside of its warren, and been snared by our snare trap. And we go back. We very quickly, very adeptly, without any unnecessary pain to the rabbit, dispatch of it and take it back to our camp. We drop off the firewood, start to skin the rabbit, and stick it on a spit over the fire that is now crackling away nicely. Meanwhile, Mel has been buzzing around while we were hunting. What do you think we would have suggested that Mel does? Mel is not controlled by us per se. She is her own thing. She is a sentient creature, but she's kind of like a cross between a friend and a pet. So she'll usually do what we suggest, unless it hurts her in any way. So, what do you think we would have suggested to her that we do? Can we keep a paw for good luck? So we actually have a good luck instrument already. Oh, Wraith told you about it. So right down here in this corner here of our inventory, you can see a lucky horseshoe. So that means that once per day, we can choose to re-roll something that we don't like. If we get a natural 1, that's really bad luck. Or if something is about to hit us with a critical hit, something like that, we can use our lucky horseshoe once per day ability to re-roll it. So we don't need the lucky horseshoe, the lucky rabbit foot, because we've already got a lucky horseshoe. She could go find some honey, make sure there's nothing dangerous in the area. All right, so tell her to do the little scouting out. She scouts the area for anything dangerous and keeps her eye out for any sweet nectar as well. Maybe she'll be able to make us a little bit of honey over the long rest or something. So on behalf of Mel, I will roll her a survival check. No, sorry, a perception check. Using Mel B's stats, I'll make a perception check, and we'll see if she can see how well she's keeping her eye out for the dangers in the area. She's definitely going to go and check the area where we tied up the goblin a few days ago and see if that goblin's still there. So on her perception check, she gets very quickly distracted by some very sweet smelling flowers nearby. And she spends some time rolling around in the pollen of some sweet flowers, and she gets completely distracted with the actual purpose of checking the area for danger. She got a natural 1, and so she's not focused at all. So we get back and start cooking up the rabbit, and she buzzes back over to us when she hears the rabbit, hears the flower and everything. She buzzes back over to us when she hears the fire and the sounds of us getting back and skinning rabbits and snapping twigs and things, and she's suddenly snapped out of her pollen-induced reverie and buzzes back over to us. You are very quick. I did not hear. I did not. I barely had time to even look around. Yeah. What'd you find? Anything in the area? No, nothing interesting really. Bee nip. Yes, she found the bee version of catnip. No, nothing interesting. What did you find? I was very successful. I found myself a rabbit, and a nice big one too. Found some firewood. I think it's going to be a nice a nice evening. She's a chain smoker bee. Yeah, she is French. Yes. So for anyone just joining us, Sylvan, the language that she speaks to us in, is based on French in my world, and so I give her a French accent when she speaks, and she sounds a little bit like a chain smoker. Sombrain, thank you for the subscription at tier 1 for 2 months now. So we have had ourselves a good time hunting and setting up camp and getting back to just being us alone. We're used to, for several years, we have been, in fact, all our lives really, we've been a bit of a loner. Apis grew up in the forest, different forest, because they from a different town. They grew up just exploring the Schafguschel, the Giftigald forest near Schafguschel, where they grew up, and they just enjoy their own company. They're social enough, they're sociable enough. You can see that they've got a +1 charisma. They know how to speak to people when they have to, but they're a bit introverted in that sense. So the last 10 days have largely been spent in the company of 3 different towns, 4 if you count Moonglofau. And so it probably makes sense that Apis' social batteries need to recharge in that sense. So Apis is having I feel like Apis would be having a good time at the moment, just enjoying their own company. And they enjoy Mel's company as well, but Mel is different. She doesn't feel like a person as much as other people, and so Apis doesn't feel as socially awkward or anxious or socially obligated to act certain ways around her. Apis is much better with animals than they are with people, and Mel obviously feels a lot more like an animal than a person. Can we groom the bee and play her some panpipe tunes while the rabbit is roasting? Yeah, absolutely, Game Mummy. Why not? I don't know. Oh, groom the bee as in like physically groom her the way that rabbits and things would. Rabbits? I meant apes, but I saw the word rabbit. Freudian slip. Yes. So while we are roasting the rabbit, we sit and just like sit in silence and enjoy Mel's company, who sits next to us, a light down on like a rock beside us. And we just absent-mindedly start picking some of the what are they called? I used to know the name of them. What are those? Burrs. Burrs is the word I was looking for. It looks like everyone's got their own word for these things. The burrs, the things that attach to animals as they pass by, and that's their way of spreading. She's got a bunch of burrs attached to her, and you just kind of absent-mindedly start plucking them off of her. And then remembering to turn the spit and roast the rabbit all the way through. And then after she thanks us once she realizes what we're doing, and kind of rolls over and scratches the itch, and then we say, would you mind if we play some music? I feel like playing some panpipes. I don't feel like I did a very good job of it the other day, and I kind of want to practice a little bit. No, please be my guest. It is always nice to hear your people music, and it is a very peculiar habit that you have. Not just you, but others as well. Like you, the people, the way that they make sounds, and they make the sounds sound fun and interesting. I'm always happy to hear the music, and so we get the panpipes out. And you can see over there that we are proficient with brewer's tools and panpipes. So I'm going to make a performance check. Basically, it's going to be a charisma check plus our proficiency with panpipes. So I will just do a skill check, charisma, skill charisma, and then it's going to be +2 to whatever this rolls. We got a 20 total. Nice. 20 total, +2 for our panpipe proficiency. Unfortunately, playing the panpipes doesn't have specific relation to us being in the forest, so we don't get our forest bonus. But Nightbot is being generous to us, yeah. So we play the panpipes, and it goes very well without the pressure to perform well for any audience. We're playing for ourselves, and we play a lovely little tune. I feel like I should look up some panpipe music to go here. Maybe I'll do that when I edit this video together. Hey Rob, future Rob, put some panpipe music here. Some royalty free panpipe music. It's one of the things that I feel like these sessions could benefit from, is like a backing track while we're playing. But I'm so bad with music, I don't ever know how to find appropriate music, and it feels like it would take up so much of my time to try and search through archives of royalty-free music looking for good stuff. Nightbot better not do us the dirty on the scary rolls. Yeah, using all the high rolls up. That's how random chance works. Why can we play the panpipes when no one's around, but when we suck when the panpipes when it matters? That's the case in real world quite often, isn't it, Wraith? When we're doing something on our own, or when nobody's around, we're really good at it, and we're like, hey, we're really good at this thing. And then as soon as you're around somebody that you actually want to show off your abilities to, it all goes to crap. Are there any panpipists in the chat? Panpipers? If only you had a fan base who could do the listening and send you recommendations. If only, Marie. If only. Well, c'est la vie. Lucky the rabbit was grilled just fine, not the usual poison we produce for other people. Yeah. Alright, so we finish our panpipe music just around the time that the rabbit is completely cooked through and ready to eat. We have a nice little meal. We offer some to Mel as well, but she politely declines. She's not one for eating meat. She gets her sustenance from the pollen and nectar that she takes from the flowers. So she declines the rabbit. More for us. We finish it off, or finish as much as we feel like, and then we wrap up the rest in some leaves for keeping for later. Add it to our ration supply. Remembers roasting a rabbit in Diggin's temple with Lucara way back when. Yeah, the memory stirs for you. Apis is 53 now, and they were, I think, 40 years old when they met Diggin. So it would have been 13 years ago. A memory stirs from 13 years ago of being in a particularly secluded part of the Giftigald forest known as Diggin's Temple, taking Lucara on a camping trip, our friend Lucara. And we roasted up a rabbit while we told scary stories, because it was on Miginash's Eve, which is the equivalent of Halloween. Told scary stories, ate rabbit together, and then that night we disappeared. We went into another plane of existence and met an archfey. And we lost all of our memories when we came back from the Feywild the next morning. The thought occurs to us after we have this memory. The thought occurs to us that if we were to go into the Feywild again this time to meet with this merry gentleman of sorts, it could well be that when we come back again, we lose our memories once more. So it's something to take into account when we decide what to do next. Finally some quiet, and we have our skills back. That's what it is. Nightbot's saying, see what happens when you chill and in your introvert way and you just enjoy yourself. Can we do some fixing and repairing of our armor, bloodstains and stuff? Sharpen our blade, redo the bowstring while we're chilling? Absolutely can. So it's probably about half an hour after sundown, which means that it's probably relatively dark now. It's still sort of twilight time, so we can still see fine, especially with our dark vision. We can see perfectly fine. But in another hour, it'll be fully dark. It'll be fully officially nighttime. So we probably want to start doing the cutting of ears at this point. I will make the executive decision on your behalf that's what we'll do now that we've finished eating, and it's a bit of a gory task, so we don't want to do it while we were eating. But now that we're finished and we're feeling a bit more relaxed, we start to head round to the goblins and start to get their ears. Now, I'll say that we can. I said there was a potential for 6, right? So I'll roll a d4 plus 2, and we'll see how many of them we get. And the others have either decomposed or been eaten by the wolves and things. We got a 3, so 3 plus 2, 5.5 ears. We managed to find 5 of the goblin ears. And I will make a note to add that to our inventory at some point. 5 times goblin ears. Goblins have very pointed, almost elven, but not up so much as out. They're kind of like, is there an animal, real world animal with ears like this? Deers maybe? I'm not sure. No, the deers have kind of like leaf shaped ears, don't they? Can't think of a real world analogy, but the goblins have very thin ears that are very pointed and out to the side. Yoda, kind of Yoda ears, but thinner. And so it doesn't take much to it's a single slice of a hunting knife and the ear comes off. They must be stinky by now. Yeah, they've gone through the rigor mortis stage and into through the bloating stage, and now they're into I can't remember what comes after. I used to know the decomposition stages off by heart. Don't ask me why. Whatever comes after the bloating stage, and they're starting to stink a bit. It's not nice. We've not set up camp anywhere downwind of any of the rotting goblin corpses. And then we head to the place where we tied up Crack, and we discover, once we find it, we discover a rope that once belonged to us that has been sliced nicely all the way down from the tree. And so we find several thin parts of rope about, it'd probably be about 4 feet long, about 4 foot long strips of rope, where we had tied it round and round and round on the tree, and there is a cut groove into the tree, where these ropes have been sliced and Crack released. So whether that was the goblins or whether that was someone else, Crack was cut loose, and whether he was still alive at the time or not, hard to know. So Crack may be alive, but Crack may have also died and then someone took the corpse for whatever reason. Would Apis know of anyone who might be able to restore lost memories after they've been lost? A capable priest or druid or temple? Because I have a fun idea. I don't believe that Apis knows anyone of that description. We know some people who are acolytes and clerics of Yolashti, the goddess of the forest and fungus and plant life in general. We've met those, and we've spent the last couple of days with them. But they wouldn't have powers of restoration of memory. They would have to seek out somebody like that. In metagaming, however, there's a few of us who take extensive notes. What are we saying? Apis is not explicitly known for doing that. What, doing what? I keep having one thing leads me further up the chat to another thing. Would it happen now that Apis is a Horizon Walker? Maybe. But theoretically, we were still a Horizon Walker back in the day, because the whole point of why we met the Merry Gentleman was that we stepped into the Feywild without using a portal, and he was alerted to that and said, "Oh, you're a Horizon Walker. Interesting." And then when we returned to this material plane, we lost our memories. So yes, being a Horizon Walker doesn't seem to affect the Fey mind fuckery. We do have a whetstone that we got given in the first episode, but we did just buy a brand new sword, so it probably doesn't need all that much sharpening. Correct. So the sword and hunting knife that we just bought don't need sharpening, but the longbow, you always need to wax your strings and take care of it and things. So we'll spend some time, now that we've got the 6 goblin ears. 5 that I said, didn't I? 5 goblin ears. We don't necessarily need to do anything else, so we will spend some time restringing our bow and whatnot. Just general upkeep of our armor. I would recommend checking for tracks tomorrow. It's dark now. We do have dark vision, but yes, you would have an easier time of it in the light. By the time we've got the goblin ears and things, I'll say it's officially nighttime, and although we still have like an hour or two of like feeling fine, we could probably go to sleep at any time from this point on. We did use a portal to get back rather than our own abilities. That is correct, Sparrow. Yes, we did. If the Feywild is memory losing or the Mary G is the memory eraser. Could be either. We don't happen to know either one. So what if Apis would carve into their gear, restore lost memory, or maybe stitch it into their clothing so it becomes an entire quest when they come back from the Feywild? Yeah. They wouldn't necessarily need to do that because they know that if it was to happen again, they would know that their memory is lost. It's not like the memory of the memory loss is also erased. They would remember that they have forgotten things. Fey mindfuckery, that's what it's called. Are we being subtly guided towards a portal by a creek? I'm not subtly guiding you towards anything. I'm just saying that that is an option that many people had already talked about doing. And if you do it, be aware that you might forget everything when you come back. I interpreted the Apis' abilities still being dormant when they were 40, not truly awakened. Maybe. We don't know yet. We forgot the rest of that conversation. We just have the memory of meeting Diggin and him saying, "Oh, you're a Horizon Walker." We have much to discuss, and then we forgot the rest of the conversation, so we don't know what happened or what it means or how long we've been a Horizon Walker or anything. I suppose we've got two choices of where to sleep. We can either sleep in this camp that we've set up here, or we can go to the hut about an hour away. It's about an hour's walk away. So let me set up a poll for you guys. All right, so with 57% of the vote, we are going to sleep in the hut an hour away because of it being more safe. So we decide that reluctantly, we're in two minds about it, but we decide that at the end of the day, whatever did come through here, if they happen to come back, we don't want to be caught unawares while we're sleeping. We won't be keeping watch. We won't have anyone to keep watch with us, so we're always safer to stay in one of those Penkempur and Amglashid huts. So we know where it is, we remember the way. It's only an hour away. We don't feel super tired yet. So we get up, we kick dirt over the embers of the fire, and then we set off walking with Mel in tow, just enjoying the cool night air. And we make it all the way to the hut again, where we find it as we left it. It doesn't seem like anyone else has used it since we did a few nights ago. We sleep in the halfway hut, and in the morning we wake up. There was no issues during the night. Nothing woke us. Nothing attacked. Mel has had a nice little snooze as well. And it is now the morning of the 21st of Yulabris. What do we want to do now? Alright, so if you want to decide what Apis should do now, the world is your oyster. Exclamation mark morning. M-O-R-N-I-N-G. Morning. We have 5 goblin ears. Lyric lost, yes. The completionist in me is yearning to finally close the Shadridge loop. Yep, could do, but it wouldn't necessarily close it, would it? Because it's an open world story that we're creating, not a video game. So you go back to Shadridge, there's a good likely chance that unless you go back there with blinkers on and run in there, tell the person you need to tell whatever you need to tell, and then turn around and run away without listening to anything. La 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 la. Unless you do that, then there's a good chance that there's something going on in the world at that point that will open up a new loop. So going back to Shadridge is a choice that, yes, you may be going back there to complete a loop, but you may already decide, you may find out when you get there that there's more going on. Investigate if goblin activity is still going and look for clues for other influences to see if Varian was right about the goblins being employed by a malign and currently unseen influence. I'm hoping that the other villagers have told the cousin or niece or whatever that Apis spends a long time alone, so to wait a decent amount of time before deciding to leave. Maybe. Check the camp in the daylight for any clues. If we can't find them, then I reckon to head to Shadridge and let them know how we've been getting on. Yep, we're not a million miles away from Shadridge. We'd be able to get there before sundown if we set off this morning. Can't leave it hanging forever. Yep. I wonder if there is any goblins which were out on patrol while the camp was destroyed. There were some goblins that were out on patrol while their camp was destroyed, but while we were looting the camp, the goblins that were out on patrol came back and encountered us and almost killed us, but we managed to get away. And then we also discovered more goblins that were out on patrol, and we killed them as well. So we are pretty confident at this stage that no goblins from that camp are currently still alive or out there, except maybe Crack and whoever saved Crack. Tori is probably pretty safe, unlikely they double raid the same area. Correct. As safe as shit gets in this world anyway, yeah. I'm not thinking tell them there's no more goblins because we don't know that for sure. I'm meaning tell them how many we've killed and see if any more activity. Yeah. Alright. Time to pick it. Who's it going to be? Sparrow, fly away. So Sparrow is still in the chat. I can see you've just mentioned something there, so I know you're still here. So what do you think we should do, Sparrow? You take control of Apis for the morning and decide what their first plan of attack is for the day anyway. Lots of different options, lots of different open threads to potentially pull at. Or you could do something completely different. You could be like, you know what? I want to see what's further north into this forest, and you can just go in a completely random direction and find out what's out there. The truth is out there. Sparrow says, go back to the goblin camp, check it for clues in the daylight, especially the destroyed area and where Crack was tied up. Wonderful. So we decide to go back to the goblin camp. We set off through the forest, an hour's walk with our Mel B in tow. Just walk in silence for about an hour. As we walk, we sort of absent-mindedly are foraging at the same time. We just can't help it at this stage. I've decided I'm not gonna continue to track the number of rations we have while ever we are in a forest situation, because as a ranger who is an outlander specifically, the outlander feature says that you are particularly good at finding food and blah blah blah. So I'll just assume that whenever we're in a forest, we're keeping our rations replenished as we're walking from place to place. We're just snapping things off of bushes and like, oh, this is edible, I'll put that in my bag, and oh yeah, this is an edible root there, I'll dig it up, and just doing some absent-minded foraging from here and there. So we're good for rations wherever we're in a forest. We arrive at the goblin camp. It seems to be left in exactly the same situation as we left it, aside from some of the goblin corpses have been moved a little bit. We investigate them, and with our passive investigation, without having to roll for it, we're intelligent enough to, with a +3, we can see passively that there's some animal influence in why they've moved. They've been started to be eaten a lot more now that they're getting fragrant in the spring air. There's some forest animals that have made home here and started eating some of the goblin remains. They're also quite stinky with flies and maggots and things around them as well, because they've started to have all of the forest critters decomposing them. Yes, we can say that Apis and Mel eat breakfast on their journey. Apis nibbles on some berries and things and some edible leaves and stuff just to have something in the belly for the day. Not like me. Wolves could still be in the area, it seems, yes. Apis does some shrooms on the way. So, I am going to make an investigation check for specifically looking for clues now. We go to the area where the tents were all smashed up, and specifically the area where we remember leaving a tent full of food. So we go to the area where the tent full of food was, which we know to be have salvaged, and whatever it was that salvaged it is obviously going to have to have carried it somewhere. It's going to have left a trail of some kind, hopefully. So let's do investigation first, and if we can find the trail, then tracking it will be a survival check. A 10, but it's forest based, so we get a +2 to that, so it's a 12. So with a 12, we don't find it very quickly, but when we get to the area where the tent was, we find definitely the depression in the ground where the tent pegs were. We find the area of the compressed undergrowth of the forest where the floor, the ground sheet of this tent was. And it takes us about 10 minutes or so to find some tracks leading out from there that we can determine are definitively tracks. It seems like whatever has made these tracks is either traveling light, so they're not making much of a compression in the ground. Maybe they're traveling in not great numbers, because they're not leaving huge wake of destruction of the forest plants in their wake. One reason or another, for whatever reason, they don't leave much of a trail, but they do leave a bit of a trail. Because we are a ranger and forest is our favorite terrain, when we're tracking this thing, if we choose to track these tracks and follow them, we will learn after an hour or so of tracking them. If we succeed in that, succeed in keeping the trail for that amount of time, then we'll learn a whole bunch of other stuff about them. One of the cool features about being a ranger is that we get to learn exact numbers and sizes and things of our quarry. If you're traveling for an hour or more in your favored terrain, forest, you gain the following benefits: blah 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 blah. And while tracking other creatures, you learn their exact number, their sizes, and how long ago they passed through the area. So if we should choose to track these tracks, and we manage to keep the tracks for an hour, then we'll learn more information about them at that point. The tracks seem to be going north, out of this goblin camp. Before we leave the goblin camp area, though, we remember the area where we left the slices of the sliced up rope that was tying up Crack, and so we headed back over to there to the area around Crack, and we'll investigate that area as well. Now let's do another investigation check. Skill invest. This is a 23. That's a nat 20 +3 +2 from the forester bonus of being a ranger. So we get a 25 investigation check on this area. Now they've left much more clues here. It seems like from the groove in the tree, we can investigate that first. We learn several things. We learn that from the amount of sap that has leaked out of this wound of the tree, we learn that the whatever cut it, they were probably here about 3 days ago, give or take. You also learn from the cut in the tree that it was made by a metal weapon of a slicing nature, a slashing weapon of sorts. It doesn't seem to have been made by an axe as much as so it's not like a chopping weapon. It's been made by a slash. So you imagine that it's been cut by some sort of a sword. It doesn't seem to be small enough to have been a hunting knife or a dagger. It seems like it would be like a long sword, maybe even a great sword. And of the height that it has started the cut to the tree, it seems like it has been made from a creature that would be larger than a goblin. So both from the size of the weapon that's cut the thing and from the angle at which it was cut, it seems like it would have been swung by at least a medium-sized creature, so your size or larger. And finally, what we learn about the cut in the tree, there was one other thing that just flashed across my mind. What was it? We learned from it that it wasn't hacked at. it was cut in a single motion. So it was something that is proficient with a weapon, in sort of has military training in ways that goblins definitely wouldn't usually. So it seems like it has been cut by something capable of wielding such a weapon, strong enough to do the job, and it hasn't dug into the tree the entire way. So it's not like it's something that has misgauged the distance. It's like cut. It's a very specific cut that has cut exactly what it needed to, and no more really. So you learn quite a lot of information when you get a nat 20 on the investigation check, and you've got a +3, +2. So 25 gives you quite a lot of information. With that nat 20 as well, so that's all you learn from the cut and the destroyed rope. But with that information, you also see, investigation rather, you also find that there's some very dried blood around the base of the tree. From, if you remember, Crack was tied to the tree after you used your hunting trap to smash into his leg. You like cut his leg, broke his ankle and everything, and like smashed up his leg. And then you broke his teeth. You smashed in his face and broke his teeth into his mouth. And so Crack was left quite bloody and wounded before you tied him to the tree. And so there's quite a lot of dried blood around the tree from where he was left there. And then there is a trail that leads from the tree away back towards sort of the camp proper, towards sort of the northeast, back into the camp proper, of now dried blood that seems to have been left there after he was released from the tree. And so it seems like Crack was still bleeding when he was released. Or new wounds opened up before he was released or something, perhaps. So you learn quite a lot of information with that decent investigation check. The goblins had scimitars, they did, yes. Cutting the rope, wood, and one slice only. It's the Highlander. It's the Highlander. It's the only option. Maybe it didn't leave many tracks because they were skilled at not leaving them. That may be the case now. That comes into Apes' mind as one of the potential possibilities now. That whatever it is has not left tracks, perhaps because it's skilled. Now that you've seen the skill of the slice in cutting Crack loose. So it seems like perhaps Verin was right that the goblins were acting in a more militaristic fashion with their calculated ambushes than goblins usually act, especially ogres as well. So it seems like they took him the sameish direction as the food. Yeah, they took him back towards the camp proper. By the time you get into the camp proper, the trails have completely like disappeared of Crack and the other guy, or whoever it was that cut him loose. Those trails have completely disappeared because they've gotten into the camp proper. But then you've still got the trails leaving the camp proper from where they took the food and the other salvaged items. So you've still got tracks to follow if you want. Let's go kill Crack then. He's still got an ear we can take. Can we follow the bloody tracks? It wasn't exactly fresh blood both when he was released, and it's definitely been a few days since he left the blood, so there's not a lot of bloody track, but it definitely will help in keeping track of the group, if there is indeed such a group. New wounds, or was rescued shortly after being tied up. Had to tell, unfortunately, Valiant Rose. Even with a 25, it wasn't. It's been too many days for you to be able to tell that level of detail. Like how long he was tied to the tree before being saved is hard for you to tell. Could it be a bounty hunter of sorts? Maybe. Could be. Crack isn't amongst those dead in the camp, so this agent presumably took him with them or let him go his way. Yep. Correct. You have not seen Crack's body. You would definitely recognise the one that had been punched in the face and smashed with the ankle. Don't kill him, just really badly hurt him and bind him to something else. The dark side awaits. Alright, so we've done our investigation that Sparrow said. Was there anything else you suggested, Sparrow? Check the goblin camp for clues in the daylight, especially the destroyed area where Crack was tied up, so we've done all of that. That's all of your That was everything that you suggested, Sparrow. So do you suggest anything else right now? Oh yeah, there we go. Let's do it. Follow the trail as best we can. Not much point in finding the tracks if we don't follow them. Yep, fair enough. Just FYI, the tracks do lead north of the Goblin Camp, and Shadridge is south and a little bit west of the Goblin Camp. So we are moving directly away from Shadridge if we do go this way. I'm not saying we don't do that, just that's a decision that Apis would know about. That would be information that Apis would know. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of it as well when you're making your decisions. Could leave a trail marker and come back to it. Could. But the longer you leave it, the harder the trail becomes to follow. Is Sparrow still around? I think so. They said something before. So we are going to start tracking or trailing this this light track as best we can. This thing that leaves this camp and heads in a northward direction. I'm conscious of the fact that we need to get back to Shadridge, tell them, but I think we need to investigate this while we still can. Plus, we do need to recharge our social batteries some more before we go back there again. Perfect. All right, I'm going to give you inspiration for remembering something that is, while it's not necessarily the greatest thing mechanically, it is something that you're making a choice because of roleplay perspective, like things keeping in mind that who Apis is and how decisions they would make because of who they are, and not because of that's the best thing to do in the game. So we've got inspiration. Well done. We are going to make a survival check then. Here we go. Let's hope for the best. Skill survival. We are in a forest, so we will get our +2 bonus to this. There's a nat 20. Nightbot's really wanting us to find the clues around this campsite, apparently. Nat 20 on investigating to find clues, and nat 20 on tracking them as well. Nat 20 +4 because we're super good at survival, plus another 2 because it's in a forest. 2 nat 20s in a row. Nightbot is in our favour today. Well done, Nightbot. It missed us. Needless to say, with a 26 survival check, we do manage to keep a track of the tracks. They are faint, but they are still they're still something that we can find with our abilities. Mel helps us as well. She's not good with tracking, but she's good with getting an aerial view. So she flies up at strategic points and has an idea of the layout of the land, gets a bird's eye view of the direction that ground-based creatures might want to head. And she goes, oh yeah, there's a river coming up over there, and blah blah blah. And here's a place where we can. Gotta keep Ben out of the chat. Yeah. Here's a particularly dense part of the forest coming up, so they would have gone round that. And here's a rock sticking out, which would have acted as a landmark. Here's a river that would be hard to cross unless you went down this part of it, so they probably would have gone that direction, blah, blah, blah. So Mel is assisting us as well. But the majority of the work comes from us moving slowly through the forest, trying to find depressions in the soil and the dirt, breaks in the foliage that hangs in from either side of the natural paths that are created, and using our own intellect to decide if I was moving in a particular direction towards something, what landmarks would I use, and what landmarks would I go towards, to try and keep aware of where you are and keep your bearings and things within the forest. So we're not being very stealthy. We are in the sense of the fact that we have to move slowly to track, but we are not necessarily choosing to be stealthy. We're just being passively stealthy, I suppose. We do get the impression that as we're going with that first hour, obviously you are going to learn those things that you're going to learn. But as you're going slowly over the first hour, you start to learn that the time since they passed through the area is about 2 days, give or take. Maybe two or 3 days, you think. You also learn, what were the other things you have to learn? You learn the exact numbers of them and their sizes, right? Exact number, sizes, how long ago they passed through the area. One of the other benefits of the Natural Explorer means that you can, if you're traveling alone, which it counts as being alone even though Mel's with you, you can move stealthily at a normal pace. So we can actually choose to be stealthy, actively try and be stealthy, and we can still go at a normal pace. And when we're foraging, we find twice as much food as we normally would, which is plenty. And even when you're engaged in another activity while traveling, such as navigating or tracking, you remain alert to danger. So we can track at a normal pace while remaining alert to danger. That's pretty impressive stuff. I don't like when you're in the right circumstances for it. Rangers can be really powerful. A lot of people say rangers give them a hard time and say that rangers are underpowered, but when they're in their element, they really shine. So let's make a stealth check just for the. I mean, we can travel stealthily, so there's no real reason why Apis would not choose to be choose to try to be stealthy. At least they are proficient in it. They get a 21 plus 2 from the forest ability as well. Blah blah blah. I mean, technically you wouldn't get a plus 2 to this because it's not an intelligence or wisdom check. It's a dexterity check, but I think it works. So we move stealthily. If there is anything hearing is coming, they're definitely going to have a hard time of it. We moved northwards for about an hour. Let me keep a track of this on my little map in front of me. Where are they going? After about an hour, you're pretty confident in saying that all of the tiny little subtle micro clues that you've been discovering over the hour lead you to the conclusion that you're following a group of about three on foot creatures, bipedal creatures. They seem to be wearing armored footwear, so they seem to have pointed human-sized feet with not greaves. What are they called? The pointed shoes. The pointed shoes that you get in like suits of armor and shit. They seem to be wearing armored footwear. They seem to be moving with the same weight as something of about human size. And sabatons, is that what they're called? That does sound familiar. So they're not barefoot. No, there's about 3 of them. They are wearing shoes, and they're wearing they're obviously armored in the amount of weight that they are depressing into the dirt and the ground. There is also a hoofed animal with them. You realise that seems to be horse hooves or horse equivalent. It seems to be. You assume you're like 90% sure that it's going to be a horse, because a lot of the depressions of the horse hooves have shoes. It seems to be a shoed animal, a shoed hoofed animal. So probably a horse with horse hoofs, horse shoes on. What else would there be? You would recognise that there's one large animal with them. That's probably a horse. There's 3 medium-sized creatures, and there would be. What else would you see? I think that's it. You learn their exact number, their sizes, and how long ago they passed through the area. So that's all that you learn from tracking them. Sabatons, armored footwear. I'm going to look up sabatons now because I'm pretty sure that's the thing I have in mind. Sabaton. Yes, those ones. Whatever you're tracking, the 3 that are walking on 2 legs seem to be wearing sabatons. They are heading north, and after about an hour, you're now heading perpendicular to the mountain on which Mwynglofau is situated. So you're about an hour to the. Now you're about an hour-ish to the direct west of Mwynglofau's mountain. Mwynglofau, for anyone new to the channel, being the drow village that is a mining town. Sounds like the knights we ran back into back in Shadridge. Could be, yeah. They were wearing sabatons. I also thought of the knights from the farm or the armoured elves from Arachel. Either way, not nice thoughts. Yeah. So more likely 4 because the horse likely has a rider, potentially. Unless we can tell if the horse is for carrying stuff. They would have different horseshoes, I think. Would they? I don't know enough about the job of a farrier. Like, do horses for riding have different shoes to pack horses? The ones investigating the murder, yes. What were their names? Kathleen and Warren. Kathleen and Warren were the 2 knights that we met back on day 1 when we discovered the body. The one that were at Creed's house, yeah. Jack Creed. John Creek. Could be allies or knights taking out the little dude for interrogation. Horseshoes depend on underground use. Wait, horseshoes depend on underground used for hard surface protection or spikes. I don't know enough about horseshoes. Sorry. We lied to them saying that we were part of their organization. Yes, we did. We lied to them saying that we were undercover as a way of getting out of awkward questions, I guess. Grak didn't speak much common, no. So good luck interrogating him. Maybe whatever it is that's going to interrogate him, if that's their plan, speaks Goblin, though. Or mind reading. I'd like to follow the tracks further. Yep, so that we can do. Let's make a... What would it be to know? I think it's another survival check. It's a different kind, though. No, intelligence check, actually. Just straight intelligence. Skill intelligence. All right. With a 19 plus our modifier from the forest. So with a 21, we are smart enough as well to determine that over the course of the hour, the direction that this party that we're stalking has moved has not really changed. It seems like it's going pretty much the same direction as it set off from the camp. That was great English. It's setting off in the same direction. It's set off in the same direction as it is continuing. It seems like they are not meandering or looking for something. They are going in the direction of something, and they happen to know where they're going. That's another thing that we learned from following them. If your horse often runs on hard surfaces like modern rocks or roads, it gets the metal plates as protection, like a human wearing shoes. If it's soft, grassy ground, it's not really needed. You can also add spikes for snow, ice, or muddy surfaces for better traction. Gotcha, thank you. It does not have spikes for snow, ice, or muddy surfaces, but it does have horseshoes. I do not need to retcon that. So that tells Apis something else about the things that they're following, is that this is a shoed horse. The shoe is going to drop so hard on us in the next fight. What, the horseshoe? Do we know what is in that direction? We have no idea. So we are, to paint you a picture of sorts. Boom! Welcome to the battle map page, everyone. So let's draw a freehand shape of roughly where everything is. So let's go with, here's a rough outline of what's going on. So all of this is forest. All of this area is woods and forest and what have you. This is your woods, your forest. This is the fair woods as they're known. Perfect. That's artistic and beautiful. And then here is sort of plains down here. This is, yeah, come on. Bloody Roll20, what's it doing? Thank you. All of this down here is grassland. For the most part, grasses and hills. You get the idea. over. Let's go. What color should a town be? It's just bright red because then it's obvious. Bright. That looks orange to me. Weird. Right about, roughly about here. That's where Jack Creed's farm is. And about an hour, let's say an hour is about one of these blocks. So about an hour away, roughly speaking, this is where Shadridge is. Shadridge. Damn it, you can't. There you go. Scroll down a little bit so you can see Shadridge. Scale of about 1 hour per square. Hid your artistic skills from you. I know, right? Didn't want to make anyone feel inadequate next to me. All right, so we went from Shadridge to Jack Creed's farm, about an hour's walk away, and then on the edge of the Fair Woods. And then from there, we went into the forest and we followed the tracks of the goblins and shit. And we went for several hours into this situation up here. So we probably got to roughly about here, and then we went west for about an hour or so. So the goblin camp is about there. GC, Goblin Camp. That's what GC stands for. You're a real GC. I'll never draw again. Inferiority complex, yeah. After dealing with the Goblin Camp, we were heading back towards Shadridge, just kind of meandering and finding our own way in the general direction of Shadridge when we found a camp. We found a trap that had been laid by Verin, and we decided to let it off to trigger it. So the trap would have actually been about here. And then after we met Verin and we said, "Hey, there's goblins in the area, FYI." He said, "Yeah, I know. Come with me. I'll show you my village." And we went east, and he took us to the village of Helwern. Helwern would be about here. My bad. I'll fix that in a second. And then from there, he said, "By the way, we've got some sister villages and they're all in trouble. Blah, blah, blah." And then we went about 2 hours from Helwern is Mwynglofau. This is Mwynglofau, and it's on it's built onto a bit of a mountain. Here we go. Here's your super cool mountain range. It's not yellow. It's built onto the side of a mountain. There you go. None of you can draw mountains as good as that. From Mwynglofau, about an hour-ish across and about a little bit up.
Oh,
this one here is
adventurer joins the team.
I like that it's one mountain. It's just one. It's more of a lone rock than a mountain. It's not really. It's like a huge hill, made out of rock that has been displaced by some sort of volcanic activity way back in the history, I guess. And then from there across here is somewhere about 2 hours to the north, this direction. This is Dolbin Ilowad. Oops, that one's off the screen for you. Dolbin Ilowad. Alright, let me try and arrange this so that you can see everything at once. I could just zoom out like somebody who's not an idiot. Vomits quietly. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful map, everyone. It is impossible to do artwork on a digital situation, guys. There's nobody who can do it. I challenge you to find even one person who could do good artwork digitally. There's no one who can do it. It's just not a done thing. And then from here, here's a little trail that we did. We can put I don't know, like a yellow trail, make it thin. We went from the goblin camp almost directly north. And we're now like here-ish. Level with the mountain, not heading towards Arachel, which is over here, but heading off of the map to the north. And we have no idea what's deeper into this forest. We're all saying what we're all thinking. It's a good thing Robert went into maths and not map making. I don't know what you're talking about. If I showed this to Nate, my good friend Nate from WASD 20, I like that we're good friends now because I've played with him once on somebody else's channel. Me and him, best friends. He would look at this and he'd be like, "Perfect. That is one of the best maps I've ever seen." Vomits quietly. I have a few maps drawn. I hate doing battle maps. I actually really enjoy making maps, but only with pencil and paper. I've never been good at digital drawing, and especially not with not with a mouse and what is effectively a software worse than Microsoft Paint. I am going to blame my tools here. I want this map on my wall. On your wall, Mythical Tyrian. I want you to tattoo this map on your back. Graphic designers don't do good digital artwork. Have to have this map in Discord. A yellow trail left in the snow by our hero Sneaky Mr. McPoopypants. Real talk, if you want me to make you a Lord of the Rings style map, I will. Bloody hell, Ajo. You're going to spoil me. I don't want you to put in that sort of work for free. You're all spoiling me. Fancy and some others have started doing a wiki for this Twitch Tales as well, which is amazing and going to be very, very useful. We're so close to the mountain, can we pay for the knife before our ears rot? We could do, yes. So we are about an hour, maybe 2 hours-ish walk west of Mwynglofau. So we can take a 2-hour detour to go directly west, pop into Mwynglofau and say, "Hey, look, a bag of 5 goblin ears. Are you cool with that?" And then she'd be like, "Sweet." And then 2 hours back again and then continue the trail. That is an option. Maybe I should put that to a vote. A TT wiki. Yeah, we definitely need a Twitch Tales wiki. Would it be difficult to find the trail again? Not for us, not when we got like a 20 something on our trail check. We could definitely leave a trail marker here and like, we're an outlander, we remember our direction. We'd be able to find our way back to this point. Can we keep an ear for Shadridge? Leave a trail sign. Yeah, we can definitely find the trail again if we choose to go to Mwynglofau. So let's open that up as a poll. I'm going to start a poll now to decide, should we take a 4-hour detour effectively to pop into Mwynglofau and show the lady that we have some goblin ears or not. By this time of day, we've gone for about an hour from the time that we set off. It was early morning. We had breakfast, we investigated the camp, and then we set off for an hour. So it's probably mid-morning. We could get to Mwynglofau by right before noon, probably. If there is no hold-up in Mwynglofau for any reason, then we'll probably be back at this trail by around 2 PM, giving us another like 3 to 4 hours of daylight. Should we take, it's not really popping in if it's a 4-hour trip, should we take a detour to, I'm just going to put to M because fuck spelling Mwynglofau from memory. Yes or no. I'm going to give you, it's a pretty important decision, being that it takes 4 hours out of our day. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes to decide. Starting now. We do need proof for Shadridge, but maybe we could pop back into the camp and grab something else off the goblin bodies on our way back to Shadridge later. Yeah, but the longer we leave it, the less of the goblins are around. It's already been several days since we killed those goblins, and they've been, you know, rotten, and they've got maggots and flies and animals eating them. There probably will be enough yet for Shadridge, but it depends on whether or not there's a bounty, because if there's a bounty, then it usually requires some sort of proof. Mwynglofau and then off into the unknown north. That's actually, I'm pretty sure, how you spell it, Felagund. I'm impressed. Or maybe you've read it somewhere and Katrina's got it as well. I've probably told you how it's spelt before. It's something like that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that does look familiar to me. Fell, you scoundrel. What is in M again? M is the Drow village, and it's where there is a blacksmith lady who gave us the longsword, well, who sold us a longsword that we're currently using, and gave us a hunting knife. She gave us the hunting knife for free on the explicit promise that we would prove to her that we've used it to kill goblins by coming back there at some point with some goblin ears. She despises goblins, and she wants to see that they have died by her weaponry effectively. So that's why we managed to get a hunting knife for free rather than like 2 gold pieces, which is what it would have cost us otherwise. Can't we call it the Drow Village instead of trying to spell it all the time? All right, with an overwhelming 90% of the vote, we are going to take a detour to Mwinglofau. All right, it's going to take up more of the day, but it's going to tick off one of the loose ends for us. She doesn't need all the ears, though. Just to save time retracing exact steps, we can just keep one, correct? If the ears are that thin, they'll probably just turn to ear jerky. Yeah, true. Just cartilage. Just skin and cartilage is all they are, really, and some blood vessels. We don't have to give her the ears. Well, we'll find out once we get there. We'll find out when we get there. Find out when we get there. All right, so with 2 hours detour, I'm going to definitely take this map off. There we go. That's better. With a 2-hour detour in mind, we decide... we say to Mel, hey, before we go too much further, I think we're going to start getting further and further away from Mwinglofau by the sounds of it. By the looks of these tracks, they seem to be going in a very specific direction, north. So I'm gonna leave a trail marker and head that direction and tie off that loose end. And so sure enough, you find a large rock and carve into it like arrows and things in the direction you're going, and you find a big fallen tree stump that's kind of like a tree log that's hollowed out, and you lift it up and place it amongst a couple of other rocks so that it can be seen from a little ways away. You start to take some of the local shrubbery and things in the area and snap it off, turn it upside down so that you can be seen. That's actually one of the ways to do it in New Zealand. We've got the silver fern. Obviously, it's one of the most famous parts about New Zealand iconography is our silver fern, and it's a fern leaf that is green on one side and quite a bright silver on the other, and so people would often turn it over and place it silver side up, and it helps you to navigate. So you're doing similar things with the local greenery, things that will help you to find your way back to this track once you so wish. And after doing so, you set off towards Mwinglofau. I'm going to roll some random encounter check to see, while you are walking through this otherwise dangerous wood, I want to see whether you come across any random encounters. Alright, I'm going to roll a percentile check to see whether you encounter anything on the way. Let's think, what would you... Oh yeah, I know something that you could encounter on the way. Is it wolves? Are the wolves still out here? Maybe. I don't know what we're going to encounter, whether it's anything at all. It's just that we are in a dangerous wood and we're only level 3. So after a certain point, when you're walking through a forest, unless it's like a particular reason for it, I'll stop doing encounter checks, because even if you encountered a bear, you just swipe his head off with your greatsword or whatever. But up until like level 6 or so, there's still a danger to be posed by random beasts of the forest and things, and so sometimes we have to roll for it. I just need to give myself a DC. What are the chances that you would come across something dangerous on the way? All right. So for the first hour, we do not encounter anything. We walk west towards Mwinglofau, and at the end of the hour, we realise that we're probably about another 45-ish minutes away, maybe 50-ish. So we walk for another hour, and for the second hour, we also do not encounter anything. So we make it to Mwinglofau with no random encounters. We stop to eat some rations or something on the way and forage for some food as on the way. We arrive at the mountain in which Munglofau is situated, and we make our way up the front, up to the front entrance to the cave that is Munglofau. We get ourselves an arrow out and fire it into the mouth of the cave, which is, as far as we understand, the way to let them know that you're here and you're not a danger or a threat or something. And sure enough, as the arrow clatters into the cave, about a minute later, there comes to the cave a familiar elven guard with a crossbow drawn, and points it around in the direction until he sees you, and then, "Hi, you're back." Wait, no, it's Scottish. In Wales. "Oh, you're back already. You're back already. Come on up." You meet with Trell, the drow guard that you met yesterday, and you pop in to say, "Hey, I've got business with Anduria, if you don't mind." And he says, "Yes, no problem. Come on in. Do you know the way? Would you like me to escort?" No, I know the way. It's fine." And you walk past Trell into the mouth of the cave, further deeper into where the large trapdoor was open, and down the stone steps. I find it kind of dangerous using an arrow as a bell. If somebody's popping out to have a smoke, he might get a different sting in his lungs. Yeah, maybe. You head down the tunnel into the stonework, the beautiful sort of stonework that's been carved out of this particular area of the mountain, that takes you deeper into the mountain, where you can hear the sounds of an underground town. You walk out and see the town spread out in front of you, below you as you've entered the balcony level, and you can make out the direction of Anduria's blacksmithy. So you head down that direction, down the stone steps, make your way through the town. You get some odd looks from people who didn't see you here yesterday, seeing a dwarf come into the town, but they're not overly xenophobic. Nobody says anything to you or challenges why you're in here. You make your way all the way to Anduria's blacksmithy, and she's banging away on the anvil, and looks up as you arrive. "Oh, you're back so soon. I didn't expect you yet. You've really made short work of those goblins, have you? It's not a problem with the weapons, is it?" No. Your weapons are working fine. I haven't had a chance to use the sword yet," and you pat the long sword. "But the hunting knife has worked a treat. You'll see that I've managed to put it to work." And you get out your whatever the hell you've been carrying these goblin ears in, probably just like a handkerchief kind of situation, and you place it on the anvil as she takes the thing she's working off and quenches it. The handkerchief opens up, and she sees 5 relatively bloody, somewhat decomposed goblin ears. She goes, "Oh, 5 of them, 5 goblins, all on your own." You say, "Hey, well, there was actually like 7 of them, but 8 of them, but 3 of them were either missing by the time I got back to them, or decomposed or eaten by animals and things. So, and these are just the right ears as well. Like, so, hey, is that right? Well, keep up that work, and I should be grateful for giving you the weapons in the first place." And you see that she is. Are you insightful? Let's see. Yeah, you've got an above average insight, but let's make an insight check just in case. These ears are all right, yeah. Get your goblin ears. I got your goblin right here. Right here. Make a skill insight check. Nat 20? Jeez Louise. Nightbot's really outdoing itself with the nat 20s today, even when it doesn't really matter. So with our nat 20, we managed to read a few things on her expression and the way she's talking to us. The first thing we recognize is that she seems genuinely grateful to see us, like it's a pleasant surprise, not one of distrust or that we don't read any sort of ill feeling across her face in micro expressions when we first arrive. She seems to be like pleasantly surprised to see us. The next thing we notice is that she seems really tired. Like it seems like she's been working probably non-stop since the last time we saw her, which was this time yesterday. She's working real hard, and the next thing we see is that when we get close enough to see her like knocking on the like doing her actual physical work, we can see that she's going at it with not quite as much gusto as she had before. Like she's lost some physical energy. She's tired. The next thing we notice is that she has genuine delight across her face when she sees that you've killed at least 5 goblins, and that whatever it is that caused this lady to have such a hatred for goblins is still strong within her. She still has no mercy for them in her heart. I don't think from that short interaction there was anything else that you would glean from such a good insight check into her body language or face, or what she's said so far. But a few people have said that they want to ask her about the knights and what is north. So what specifically are we asking about the knights? Got the goblins right here. 21's a good year. She's working on the Arachel order still. Yeah, we ask her, are you still working on the order from the Arachel? And she says, yes, I'll likely be working on it for weeks. They really have no end in sight as to what they want from us. They just said keep producing as quickly as possible. They're actually asking that I train up other blacksmiths as well, so that we can get more blacksmiths working on it. But they either want weaponry or they want me to train other blacksmiths, and I've said to them which is it, and they've said that they'd prefer me to just be churning out weapons at this stage. They can, but if I can get an apprentice to come and watch me work while I'm working on the weaponry, then maybe the apprentice can start working on weaponry of their own. But I don't know. Never mind. It's not my problems, aren't your problems. And she kind of dismisses it from that point. Cook her a nice pot of coffee. That'll either help or kill her with our cooking skills. Yeah. Arachel's put in a rush order for weaponry. Yes. If there were any knights around, spotted by some elves. So you ask if do you know if there's any knights of Kvosna been around this area? And she says, no, I'm not familiar with any knights coming through. That's the humans faction of guards, isn't it? And you say, well, it's not just humans, but yeah, mostly humans. No, I don't think so. We have our own system, so I'm not sure of any. I don't know of any need for the knights to come to this area. She kind of just dismisses that line of questioning. What lies to the north? So we ask her, hey, what's to the north of here, by the way? And she says, north in deeper into the forest. There's the Great Expanse, which is about a day's journey of no major features, no landmarks to the forest, and then it starts to thin out once you get to the sedentary mountain, which is the mountain way to the north, about 30 miles or so, I'd say. I'm not exactly sure though, because I haven't been across the Great Expanse myself. It says I'm not familiar with the area of the forest. It starts to get a little too wild for my tastes, a little too unkempt. Lots of creatures and just untamed wilderness, I suppose. Maybe Melby can give her a tiny adrenaline poke. Not only if she hits 0 hit points. It only works when on a creature that's still alive but on 0. Not knights, but 3 humanoids in heavy armor. I just used the term knights. Gotcha, sorry. The term knights in this world is reserved for the Knights of Kubasta. So I assumed you were meaning them. She says, no, you rephrase the question then. And she says, no, I'm sorry. I've been in here since the last time you came by, and I haven't had news from the outside. You could ask one of the guards, I suppose, on your way out. But I'm not familiar with it myself. We can tell her about the tracks we found. Ask if she knows where they might lead. Sure. So we ask her. We tell her that here we've found tracks. We've been following them. There's 3 armored footprints. That's why I was asking. Do you know where they might lead? And she says, I'm not so. I don't know. I'm sorry. They probably lead somewhere into the Great Expanse. There's many creatures that live there. If they were armored, though, that's peculiar. I'm gonna roll an intelligence check for her to see whether she knows more than I think she knows. No, she doesn't know any more information. And with our natural 20 on insight before, we don't have any reason to believe that she's lying to us. I would think a giant bee moving towards me to give me a pokey poke would get some adrenaline going. Yeah. So this part of Apis doesn't particularly want to travel for more than a day to the sedentary mountain. Yeah. I feel like that's where we were going. Maybe. We haven't seen a mountain on the horizon because it seems like it's more than our visual distance away. We haven't seen any mountain, but obviously that makes sense if it's more than 30 miles away. I don't know why, but I want Apis to have Mr. Miyagi-like skills with the hand rubbing and healing powers and give her a good boost with lay on hands. He ain't Apis, sorry, isn't a paladin, so they have no lay on hands abilities. I mean, they've got cure wounds, but she isn't exactly wounded. You could use some of the salve, like you've got some salve down there that works as like a very strong, very magical deep heat. Tiger balm or something. So you could use that if you wanted to. It would definitely work, but it's like an expensive salve that you don't have infinite of. But Rob, we have dark vision. You do have dark vision. What did I imply that you didn't? Can we give her a teeny bit of salve? If we give her a teeny bit, it won't do anything. We need to use 1 full usage of it to have any proper effect. How many uses in a salve, in a pot? I think I said 6, didn't I? 6 comes to mind. I'm pretty sure I said there were 6 usages of the salve. Sounds like a different arc, possibly. If we're heading into this expanse, I would now vote for going to Shadridge to give an honest report. Yeah. Seeing the mountain from where we are and being... Oh, right, because we have dark vision. Can we see the mountain from over 30 miles away? Can we pretend to use it on her and take advantage of the placebo effect? If you can find a way to placebo placing a salve on someone, like rubbing a salve into the skin, hit her over the head and go sleepy sleep. It's cheaper. You guys have been trolls. All right, what should we do now? Is there anything else you wish to talk to Anduria about while we are here, while we have her company, while we have her mind to pick? Placeboom. Anduria is a half-human, half-drow that we don't know the full backstory of, but for one reason or another, she despises dwarves and despises goblins rather, and wants to see them all dead. She's a very good blacksmith, and that's all we really know about it. Is there anything that you would want from such an NPC before we leave, or find somebody else in the town, or whatever? I don't know. Is there any news about why Arachella's put in this order? That's a good thing to ask. We ask her that. Is there any news that you know about why Arachella's asking for this order? And she says, no, I'm afraid not. I wish there was, but I've asked many times and I've been rejected. I've been shot down with my requests. So I'm just keeping my head down and putting the order in. But I have heard that there is a representative from Arachel on their way. They'll be arriving at some point later today, probably. I don't hold weight to anything they say really, but at some point later today or tomorrow they will probably arrive, and I assume that they're coming to let us know what's actually happening and why there's such a demand for the sudden weaponry and training and things. How many things was she asked to make? She was asked a standing order to just keep churning out weaponry. She's currently making shields and longswords. She's breaking it up. She's breaking up the shields and longswords, sort of the monotony of the work, by making some other weapons that don't require as much on her end, but require more from like carpentry. So like she's making spearheads and arrowheads from time to time, but for the most part she's making longswords and shields. Enough for a squad or an army? Well, she's one blacksmith and she's working as hard as she can. There are others in the city that do similar work, like fletching and making of wooden weapons, like wooden spears and things. They're all working as well, but they haven't put a limit on it. So at the moment, like being one person working on it, or one person working on the metalworky side of things, it's going to be enough for a squad, I guess. But if there's no end put onto it, then it could be enough for an army. Just a small army, maybe. I don't know. Suggest she gets some sleep because her weapons might be not be up to standard if she's wearing herself to exhaustion. Plus, if she wears herself out, she won't be any use when it comes to the actual fighting. Yep. All right. So we suggest that, and she says, "Thank you. I think you forget that I don't really need to sleep as an elf." And with our insight from before, we kind of gathered that there's something there that she wasn't telling us, or something that she was holding back. She wasn't being entirely truthful, or there was something else that flitted through her mind that she didn't say. Either way, even if you don't need sleep, you need to rest, you need to meditate or whatever, you need to just chill out, and your weaponry is going to start not being as good if you work yourself to the bone. You really should get some rest at some point. She says, "Thank you, I'll take your opinion to heart. I can't go for much longer anyway, even if I wanted to, so yes, I will be forced to rest at some point. Let's get out of here before Arachel arrives and kicks up a stink about us being here. They could well. Might need to leave before the squad arrives, yeah. Go to Shadridge, come back to observe the squad. As part of Apis' mind, want to avoid the Arachelians. Vern isn't with us. I fear that there isn't someone who would be able to vouch for us with an equal clout as Vern did, correct? So we're going to go back to the trail, help out with some woodworking and stuff. Take a break to meditate, yeah. So what do we want to do? I can put it to a poll. When I make a poll, I can choose 5 options. So if we can come up with 5 options or less of like the main things that we would want to do as Apis, I can put it into a poll and we can decide now what we're going to do. Obviously, go back to the trail and continue tracking it to the north. That's one option. Go back to Shadridge before the Arachelians arrive. That's another option. Stay here until the Arachelian representatives arrive to see if we can learn from them more about what's going on. I don't know what are some of the other options that I could put into the poll, guys. If you want to sort of decide what Apis does, like give me some options now. This is your chance to decide. The Drow community is lower in the power balance between the sister villages. It seems you wouldn't really know, to be honest. You haven't seen enough of the power dynamics between the villages to know where the Drow village stands. The Drow village are definitely not like slaves or anything like that. They're not working for others without reward. They get remuneration. They're all and as you know now, all 4 sister villages work together. They provide things for each other. So you're not sure if there's like a power disparity between these drow and the other elves. Advert to either stay and help and find out the Arachel information, or skip it and go back to Shadridge. Either of those are okay with you. 3 options are fine. Waiting for the Arachelians includes... I mean, if you're going to wait around this village, then you might as well offer your assistance in some way or another. Ask her if it's a bad idea for us to stick around. So as if I was to stick around and wait for this Arachel representative, would that be a bad idea? She says, that would be your idea. It would be up to you. I don't know. Why would it be a bad idea? Oh, it's just that I've had interaction with them before, representatives from Arachel, and they were not pleasant towards me. She says, Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not surprised to hear that, but I'm sorry to hear it. I don't think you would be in danger here if you were to stay and stay until they arrive. But I wouldn't try and make any mischief with them. If your interest is just in hearing what the news is from them, then I don't think there's anything wrong with you staying for that. I can't foresee that being a problem or trouble. Stay and help / wait for them. Go to Shadridge or go back to the trail. I think those are the 3 main options, isn't it? Is there anybody? This is your last chance to come up with a 4th or 5th option of what Apis would do. Otherwise, those are the 3 options that I'm going to give. Will the trail get cold if we delay further tracking? Yep, the track gets harder and harder to follow the longer we leave it. But given that we have tracked it successfully after like 2 or 3 days, maybe another half day wouldn't matter. It depends. I will be rolling for like weather and things, and if it's bad weather, then obviously the track's gone. Go back to Shadridge. If the track seems to be going into a tougher area, it might not be such a great idea to keep going north. I'd rather avoid the Arachelians if possible. Maybe Valiant, but not sure what else we can find out from that trail. Hope our presence would not get the Minglof in trouble. Very Apis-like to avoid conflict, but I am thrilled to learn more from them. That is true. Avoids conflict when possible, doesn't it say? What is the Apis? Is that it? No. TT_Apis, I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. Apis is cunning, resourceful, and introverted. Avoids trouble where they can. Will always help those in need. So if we decide that the Arachelians coming here is going to be trouble, we would definitely avoid it, because that's right there in our write-up about our who we are. And if we consider that Munglothau is in need, then we would also stay to help. So it would be 2 conflicting parts of us. Anyway, so I'll give the 3 options. I'll give the poll now. I will give the poll now. It would be a real stretch to call her a friend, Wraith. We are slow to trust, remember. That's another part about us. Apis can be indecisive, inconsistent, and slow to trust. So we have had fine interactions with, what's her name? Anduria Blecken. We've got no issues with her, but she's barely an acquaintance at this stage, definitely not a friend. So with those things in mind, you guys make the decision for the character as to what we do. I will start the poll. Keep in mind all of those things. We are in an elven village. We've not fully recharged our social batteries yet, so that might be something to come into it. If we go back to Shadridge now, we won't have as much information for them as if we did stay to speak with the representatives from Arachel. But if we did stay, then we have to deal with a representative of Arachel, and if we've not got our social batteries recharged, that's going to be even worse, potentially. There's a whole lot of things to decide, but that's why you are making the decision as a hive mind. by the way, she wraps up the ears and hands them back to you. Like she didn't want to keep them. She just wanted to see dead goblin. And so you still have 5 goblin ears in your inventory. RHL could have useful information. Yep, definitely. But to get the information, you either want to stick around and deal with people from RHL, or leave, do Shadridge, and come back once you can just get the information from Winglofau second hand. Why to the trail? You could go to the trail to get more information that you would then take to Winglofau and Shadridge and others. Like, you currently don't have all of the information. All that you know is there's 3 people and a horse that have found the goblin camp and then headed directly north towards something. Might also be beneficial to be seen more by them as a friendly presence. Yeah, could be. There's no further information from the trail, guys. It could be. There could be more information out there. Like, you don't know how much further it goes. We could be getting into trouble, or we could be learning more information. I don't know. I'm not trying to sway you one way or another. I'm just saying there's positives and negatives to every option. Going with the Jackson Brown here. Stay just a bit longer. Socializing with a bunch of strangers is exhausting enough when they're friendly. Trying to deal with RHL being hostile towards us would be even more so. Yep. Last few seconds, guys. The RHLians are seers, yep, and diviners. They have a lot of information. Correct. Could be traveling for a whole day and getting so far from everything. All right. Ooh, look at this. 50% of the voters say we go back to the trail. 36% of the voters say stay until RHL arrives and get information. And only 14% of the voters say go back to Shadridge. So back to the trail it is. With 50% of the vote, only half of Apis wants to head back to the trail and continue. And hence Apis is indecisive and inconsistent. But that is why we wrote that into their personality traits. Apis ultimately decides, I don't know enough information yet about what the thing I was tracking was. If I can find out at least what it is that I'm tracking, where they're going, or any other information about that, then maybe I'll have more that I can give to the people that need the information. So ultimately, they make the toss of a coin effectively in their mind, and they go, "Yeah, sod it. I'm making a decision." Boom, and they make the decision. Could we ask the drow if they could send a message for us? You ask the drow. Is there anyone here? Is there anyone here who can like send a message? Is there like pigeons or ravens or anything like that? And she says, "No, I'm afraid we don't have pigeon services or anything like that. We do send messages." Messengers between the sister towns. Say, is there someone who could take a message to a human town called Shadridge? And she says, you can ask, but I don't think so. We tend not to perform. I shouldn't say this but I'm too tired to be tactful. I'm fine with you being here, and most people you'll find here would be fine with you being here, but we don't go out of our way to be accommodating to outsiders. I don't think you'll find someone here who would happily go several hours through the forest to wherever this human village of yours is. You can ask, but I wouldn't hold your breath. Yeah, I understand. So I'm sorry. I said no, I understand it. And you've given me much more of a welcome than Arachel certainly would have. she sort of laughs, and yeah, that's for sure. I really must be getting back to work, but he said, no, you really must be getting back to rest. But I understand what you're saying. Don't work yourself to the bone, okay? They need you, especially not before you've trained up that apprentice of yours. She laughs again, and Thank you. She gets back. She takes the sword that she quenched out of the thing and starts hammering in again. Just puts it back into the fire just as you're leaving. We have good animal handling. We could capture a bird and tame it to carry our message. We could, but a bird with a homing. It would have to be a bird with a homing ability that you teach to understand Shadridge as its home, and then you take it away and send it back again. That's how pigeon messengers work. You just need to get to the level where you get the spell Animal Messenger. Bards, Druids, and Rangers get it. It's a 2nd level spell, which means that you, as a Ranger, get it at 5th level, I think. Rangers Guild territory. Rangers, as half-casters, you get 2nd level spells when you get to 5th level. So when you get to 5th level, you get access to 2nd level spells. One of the 2nd level spells that you will have access to, if you should want to take it, is a spell called Animal Messenger. And it does the following. It lasts for 24 hours. By means of this spell, you use an animal to deliver a message for you. Choose a tiny beast you can see within range, such as a squirrel, a blue-ray, or a bird. You specify a location which you have visited, and a recipient who matches a general description, such as a man or woman dressed in the uniform of the town guard, or a red-haired dwarf wearing a pointed hat. You also speak a message of up to 25 words. The target beast travels for the duration of the spell towards the specified location, covering about 50 miles per 24 hours for a flying messenger, or 25 miles for other animals. When the messenger arrives, it delivers your message to the creature you described, replicating the sound of your voice. The messenger speaks only to a creature matching the description you gave. If the messenger doesn't reach its destination before the spell ends, the message is lost and the beast makes its way back to where you cast the spell. At high levels, you cast the spell using a spell slot of 3rd level or higher. The duration increases by 48 hours for each slot above 2nd. So if you choose a bird or a flying creature and the destination is within 50 miles, then you can cast it as a 2nd level spell and your message will get to them. But it'll be 25 words or less. Be pretty useful for this situation, for sure. You'd just be able to go out, grab a bird and be like, Toria, the goblins are all dead. You should be safe to continue on Jack's farm for now. More info later. And then you'd have that have that dealt with for now at least. But unfortunately, alas, you do not have access for that yet. So you've asked the lady, the blacksmith, whether they'd send a message to you and for you, and she seems doubtful that they would. Just hope Toria hasn't left when we come back. She hasn't made up her mind yet, and said should leave when if she doesn't feel safe. Yeah, that's correct. Birds can't read the words on signposts to find towns, though. Yeah, but by the magic of you knowing where the town is, the bird knows where the town is. I think going back to Shadridge to tell her that the goblins might have been mercenaries of an unseen agent, she's less likely to think the place is safe. True. Yeah, that's probably the deciding factor as to why Apis decides to follow the trail for at least a little bit further. We need to go back, find the trail. What is it that was working with them, if indeed they were working with them? And then we've got information that we can tell them when we do go back. I meant for the training, not the spell. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's why you need to train pigeons. How it works, how pigeon messengers work in my world, and I think in the real world, is that you have a bunch of pigeons raised from birth, or at least fed in a particular area, like a city, or certain areas of the city if it's a big one. And you have that collection of pigeons that's like, these are the London pigeons. And then when there's somebody taking a cab from London to Oxford or whatever, you take one or two of the pigeons with you, and you take them all the way to Oxford, and then you keep them in a cage in a post office in Oxford. And then when you want to send a message to London specifically, you walk to the post office and you say, hey, I'm going to send a message to London. Have you got any London pigeons? And they say, yes, we do. And then you write your message, you tie it to the London pigeon, and the pigeon sets off and goes, right, where's home? Where's London? And they head back towards London. As long as they've not been away from London for very long, they will still have the homing nature and go back to their town. So in order to send a bird message without animal messenger, you would need to have a pigeon that was from Shadridge, and then tie a message to it and send it off. Surely our aim is to give Toria an accurate idea of the danger, not to convince her to stay no matter what. Otherwise, just lie to her. That's true. If your end goal is just to get her to stick around, then you can just lie to her. But your goal is to give her an accurate report, I guess. I would tell her how many goblins we've killed, plus the ogre, and then she knows those things aren't a danger anymore. Yep. Alright. So, Apis has made up their mind. On the way out of the town of Winglofau, we talk to Trell, the drow guard, and we ask him if he's seen any armored people around here lately. I'm gonna give him a percentage chance of having seen such an armored guard around here lately. What's the chance? What's the chance that he's seen something matching that description? Holy shit, that was close. Ooh, that was real close to being a success. On quite a small chance as well, but unfortunately, alas, it was not. He says no. Unfortunately, he hasn't seen anyone matching that description, and why. And you explain why you've seen, and to keep his guard up and to keep a lookout for it. You also ask him, is there anyone here who would send a message for me? And he says, no, sorry. We can't afford to lose the manpower at the moment. And we wouldn't send a message for a dwarf, not to be rude, but that's the truth of it, kind of thing. And you're like, all right, well, thank you for your honesty. Finally, before I go, do I really have to shoot an arrow into your cave every time I arrive? And he goes, no, that's a habit that you've picked up from one of the Helwerins, haven't you? The Helwerins, for some reason, have it in their mind that that's the way that we announce ourselves. But you can just shout. We're usually on duty, and if we can hear your arrow clattering, we can hear the shout. And quite frankly, hearing somebody shouting their announcement of their arrival is a lot less frightening for us than having somebody suddenly shooting arrows at us. So you can just shout, and you laugh and say, "Hey, yeah, sorry, I thought it was a bit peculiar, but hey, that's." You pick up habits from those you're with, I suppose. Is there anything else we would want to ask Trell, the guard of one of the guards, the head guard of the Winglofau village? Is there anything we want to ask him before we leave? Good on you, Verin. Yeah. A good 2 hours west of here, exactly. Yeah. So it was very unlikely. They were in the area. 2 hours is still theoretically in the area, and also he is a guard of this particular town, so he does spend some time patrolling the area. So there was a chance, just a very low chance. It seems from the dice that he came close to crossing paths with armoured creatures that fit the description you gave, but it seems like their paths did not cross. Does he know any more about the Expanse? That's a good question. Does he? Let's have a look. Let's make an intelligence check for him, see how much he knows about the Great Expanse. 13. He wouldn't be the most book learned, but he'd be relatively wise. So 13 plus a modifier, he'd probably have about a 2. 15-ish. He says... what would he know? He says, there's... Yes, the Great Expanse is known for that because it's relatively flat land, with relatively featureless. The trees that grow there are all somewhat uniform. There's not a lot of diversity in the forest in that area. It's hard to navigate. It's one of the reasons it's called the Great Expanse, is that it feels like it's going on for longer than it is. It's hard to navigate, and it's full of creatures because it's hard to navigate, and it's somewhat featureless, including like a lack of rivers and water features and things. It means that not many folk have ever settled there. the folk that settle there tend to be nomadic and good at surviving in a wilderness. There's not a lot of settlements, and as such, the wildernesses abound. There are lots of creatures and monsters of sorts that roam that part of this forest. I think it came about from volcanic activity. I think the sedentary mountain is so called because it was once an active volcano, very active volcano. But a few hundred years ago, it stopped erupting and became sedentary. I think that's when the trees started to grow in this area, but through many layers of volcanic rock and lava and such, lava flow, it had made the land fertile in the nutrients. It was rich in nutrients, but it took a long time for it to be hospitable to plant life again. And so the Great Expanse arrived. This must all be about a millennia ago, I suppose. Now I'm not exactly sure, but it's been about that time since the mountain went sedentary, and the Great Expanse is what remains. So that's what he knows with his intelligence check anyway. So we bid him adieu. If there's nothing else you want to ask Trell about, we bid him adieu and we leave the mountain, and we head 2 hours back towards the direction we came from to try and find that trail again. So I'm going to roll a check again, like we did on the way to Moonglowfell. I'm going to roll a check on the way back to see if we encounter random encounters in the forest. On the first hour, we do not. That's the roll that Trell would have needed to have met the people that you're following. So as we're walking, we're about an hour away. As we're walking back towards the direction we came from, we do hear well, I won't put a name on it yet because I'm not entirely sold on what it is that we're going to encounter, but we're going to encounter something, and we'll pick up there next time. It's been 3 hours, so that's a nice place to leave it. We're going to be starting next time with an encounter. It's going to be a wild rabbit. The random encounter table is going to be a bunny. I tell you, if it is a bunny, it's more like a Monty Python Holy Grail bunny. We're going to pick up that next time, and we'll have an encounter to deal with. And then if we survive the encounter, we will make it back to our trail, and we can continue from there to head north and discover what we're doing and where we're going and who we're following and whatnot.